It's time to learn how to test. The first thing we'll need to know is where to put our test files. By default, Jest provides several patterns for our test files. Any JavaScript file that ends with .test.js, any JavaScript file that ends with .spec.js, as well as any JavaScript file in any directory called tests, with 2 underscores before and after. Keep in mind that these test files do not have to have the same name as the file with the actual code, but having them both use the same name with the spec or test suffix makes it easier to show which file your tests are related to. Where you place your tests is completely up to you. In this course, we'll be placing the test files right next to the code files, but if you'd prefer to keep them separated in another directory, that's fine too. Just keep in mind that if you do change the location of the tests, you'll need to change your import statements as well. Let's start by creating a test file. So we'll go to the source directory and then create a new file called index.test.js. So to create a test, we call the global it function. And the first parameter is the name of the test, and the second parameter is a function that's going to run the code. So let's make a test that should work. And the second parameter is the function. And we expect true to equal true. That should obviously pass. And we'll open up our terminal. And now we just run npm test. As you can see, it does work as expected. So for a test file to be valid, we need at least one test. So one statement using the it global. And for a test to be valid, we need at least one expectation in there. So now if I expect true to be false, that's obviously going to fail. So if I hit save, it's automatically going to rerun the test and then show us where the test failed. There's also a way to group tests together. So I'm just going to cut this, and we can group tests together using the describe global method, which, just like the it method, takes 2 parameters, the name of the group and then a function which contains the tests themselves. So let's call this test group or test suite our first tests. And in that function, we're going to paste our initial test. Now if we hit save again, you'll see that our test is now grouped inside this describe block. Now if I copy this, I'm going to make this pass and this too. It should work again. Now you see this nice little structure with the test group name and then the names of the tests. Much like the tests themselves, the test groups also need at least one test to be valid. So if I remove this and save again, you'll see that it failed to run because it needs to contain at least one test. And let me put this back. Now this is the output that you're going to see if you run npm test in the terminal. However, in these screencasts, the output is going to look a little different. Since I'm using WebStorm, I'm going to go ahead and use the Jest runner inside WebStorm, which looks like this. So as you can see, it pretty much looks identical. It just allows me to jump to certain parts of the code and so on. But the output is the same as running npm test in the terminal. So in a nutshell, we now know where to write tests and how to run them. And we also know that the test output in the screencasts might look a little different from yours. We haven't covered how to write tests yet using the expect global, but we'll cover that in the next video. In this module, we just used basic tests to make sure that our files can actually run.